All right, we should be live. How's the audio? Let me know if our audio is working. Does the chat work too, hopefully? Unfortunately, I don't know how to get my screen out of the way in the bottom right corner, but um, I think the audio should be working, so we should be good. No. All right. Yes. All right. We got it. Let me know if we have any audio problems or if the chat's not working. Um, So this is a different setup. We're going PC, so it kind of just gonna be is what it is. So I am live on Twitter and YouTube right now, so I got both chats up. If you have questions, I'll throw them in, answer them first. Gonna cover the interior storm snow threat for Thursday, Friday, and then we're gonna go and talk about the pattern a little bit at the end. And there's a little too much to talk about in just one video, and through live streaming it's a lot easier to cover my bases, and allows you guys to answer questions that are live here even though it's late on a Monday night. So appreciate everybody that is in here currently. So let's get to it. So with Thursday, Friday, where's my pen tool at? Got it cooking. So with Thursday, Friday, we have a strong upper level low here, and I don't have my pen. Where's my pen tool at? Load pen tool is fine. So we have a strong upper level low that's moving through, and with this, I can't click on anything until the pen loads. All right, so with Thursday, Friday, I can still talk it over. It's fine. We have a strong upper level low. Oh, there's the pen. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, strong upper level low moving through, and what we're going to see is we're going to see a battle within a transfer of energy. I like to call it vorticity, where I don't really care too much. People get bit up, worked up over it. This winter, I'm going to try to tune out a lot of the discourse the best I can about, people just starting stuff to start stuff. I'm going to try to do my best to stay away from that. I'll get zoomed, I'll get locked in at some point, being a little bit more unfiltered, but whatever. So what we're going to see is we're going to see a battle, though. We're going to say a transfer of energy. So we have, Vort. I don't want a color, pink. Battle here, and a battle between a transfer of energy. And you guys should be able to chat too. And, let me know if you can't. I'm just checking with that because I had problems last year the first time I started. I think we should be good with that though. And what we're going to see is eventually a transfer takeover here. But here's why I say this is complicated, because it's a little bit more complex to transfer system. What we also have is we have this piece diving in on the backside. There'll be a little bit of supply of cold air, but this doesn't come in right away, and it makes it difficult. We have a block in place. It's a little bit further north, hard to see, which is why this energy is still going to be able to push a little bit. We have a strong block, but it's farther north. If I show you guys here, 500 millibar height anomalies, and then I go up to, that, and if I go to North America, you guys will see, right, we do have a block in place, right? But it's where it's centered is still a little bit farther north. Typically, you'd want the strength of the center of this block to be a little bit further south, and this allows our upper level low to push in, and out here. Even though eventually, what's going to happen is what does end up happening is, right, this piece ends up swinging through, right? So this piece comes swinging here on Thursday, Friday, and what happens is it pushes all this back here. That's still not fully gonna, right? The idea of a more consolidated upper level low, I was always, pretty confident in. Models, kind of came around to that. But now what we're seeing is, right, is this back here is going to help kickstart this, and kind of almost not fully, but let me play it out first, just to confirm. Yeah, it's going to open it back up, our upper level low, and what happens is then we get almost a third system, right? So we have our first system out here. You could argue fourth, honestly. Our second system here, our third here, and then our fourth here, right? Four like different periods of strengthening with this upper level low. If we play it, it'll make a little bit more sense. We go here on the precipitation type map. Don't get too caught up on exactly what it's showing right now. But when we go in here, notice, right, a strengthening low pressure system, and then another strengthening, and then another strength, and then another, right? That's 4 different times we see a surface low take off. And another component we talked about is tropical moisture, right? We are going to have some Sarah's remnants get caught up in this, and it's going to get pulled in just a little bit, I think, better. Right, so a stronger system is really going to make things interesting. It was going to allow this to open up sooner, weaken this out here, and then really strengthen, our intensification period and center it more, our intensification period, versus 4 different intensification periods. Probably would have had just 2, and it would have been centered. The main one would have been centered here if we had a stronger tropical. But now we still have tropical moisture, so we're going to be tapping into that a little bit, and we're going to be going pretty much full throttle negative tilt here. So we're wrapping in some of Sarah's remnants, and then as that upper level low starts to intensify, and we're going to stack. So we'll call it H5, right? So H5 is right here. We're going to stack. So that is where we're going to look to see. I still think there's a wiggle room there, and it's not set in stone, and I'm going to explain why we still have a good amount of wiggle room there. But when we, I wanted to go to lower, I can't. I gotta go to, what's the word? So right there, you'll know where H5 is, and as I zoom in here, notice, boom, 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 right? Notice we're going to be stacked, right? This is 850. This is even lower than 700. 700s are mid-levels, 850s when we start getting to our levels, and we're going to be stacked right on top of each other. And what's going to happen is, right, we're going to be going, we're at this point where we're going to be going, negative tilt in our trough, right? We go full negative, and bang. At this point now, right, we're wrapping in, right, and it's the process too. As we're going negative, we go from positive, neutral to negative. We wrap in this moisture, and it's going to consolidate around the upper level low. And since we're stacking, it's going to consolidate around 5, 7, and 850. And since we're also stacked, right, all the best dynamics are going to be centered around where we stack. So that's why it's basically going to be follow the upper level low. So in that sense, it's going to be simple. But where the upper level low goes is not going to be so simple. So in the beginning, it's fine. You can use preset type map to explain this. In the beginning, don't get too pay too close attention to exact details. But as we progress, right, rain, maybe some flakes, right, it's basically rain. I still question how much, I really question this southern band of snow to develop off that initial low. As the transfer happens, I really am very non-optimistic. I'm pretty pessimistic about people picking up snow in this area on the backside. I think some, and maybe you could get a little bit, since you're going to have some pretty good dynamics still left. I think you could, but all your moisture, though, for the most part, is really going to be centered now, focused, going around into our new intensifying upper level low. So when that happens, it really, makes it difficult, to wrap moisture at this point into here. And we're going to be looking at, you can see the tail, moisture tail, everything's going into here. So this is why I really think you have a really good moisture feed. You're going to be going negative. You don't have a long intensification period because you're going to stack pretty quickly. Right? You're going to intensify pretty quickly, and you're going to go down to 988 or whatever, somewhere in the 980s, and then you're going to stop intensification. And at that point, you're done. You're done pulling in cold air. And so that's why it's still going to be rain on the backside for a lot of people of this system. So that's the problem you run into. And the euro, shows a similar thing. 18 is a euro, right? Pretty similar solution, right? You're just looking at that point thermals of the models of the solution. I think euro also, right, a little bit different. Doesn't pull in this piece quite as much too, which is going to add some cold air. So that's kind of the difference between the Euro and the GFS. So things to look for really: the timing of this piece for model change. That was a terrible arrow. But we'll go here 500 and we'll go height anomaly. And the big thing though I'm looking at, this is why last someone asked, what do you think of Pennsylvania, or someone asked, what do you think about Massachusetts River? And the big thing I come down to is we're like splitting the trough basically. If we go out to North America here, we're like splitting the trough in a sense. So we have this big bomb cyclone out here that's really be winding up, and we have our system that's going to out here. And so as that happens, what you're going to see occur is we see these troughs kind of split. We see the ridging build back in at that point, and it kind of turns into almost a cutoff low in a sense. But the ridging, there's going to be a weakness in the ridging again, and what we're going to see eventually is this piece is going to come on through. So that is, kind of the complication and the difference between, I think, the Euro and the GFS. The GFS should be a little bit weaker in the ridge at that point. Oh, no, because it's already moved through. Okay, that makes sense. So that's really the difference at that point. It does develop just a little bit later, and some already got warped into here. So that's why that showed what it was. But what does that mean, for snow potential wise? So here's how we get a potential, a potential surprise. This is why I'm holding on to this system. Why I never gave up. Right, just from basics. When we're going to be pulling them, let's just look at the general. Just general. Break it down. A lot of people sometimes get too caught up in what a P-type map shows and all that stuff. Let's break it down just again to basics. What are the basics of this showing? And I see a deep trough. That was a terrible drawing. The lag on the PC is killing me a little bit. I see a strong upper level low, pretty well interior, but closed off. I see a strong upper level low, and I see a moisture feed pulling back. I see a trough that is turning negative, with still another period of intensification. So it really gets interesting. I think there's an aspect here where we start looking at northeastern New England for another potential snow period as the fourth round of the surface low takes off. And I think we also look at potentially, as this upper low strengthens, I think we look at this area as well for another area of snowfall, and then kind of back here as well into the Appalachians as what's left over vorticity was still moisture kind of being wrapped in around and being sucked in. Whatever left here, this will kind of dip to the southeast, and I think they'll make out with some good elevation snowfall down there. So there's a lot of different interesting aspects of this storm that I think are still pretty intriguing, and I don't want to hold off on the fact that I don't want to be like going so far to say like we can't see snow also in like central Mass, which I happen to live. I would love to see some first. I think I'll see some first. I got a good shot of seeing some first flakes. I don't know about actual snow accumulation. I'm not too optimistic about that, but yeah, I think this area is still to watch in terms of snow potential. For some light accumulation, I'm still not going to hold off there quite yet, because if you move, it's pretty simple. It's not, you notice here on a lot of these runs too, it's not just elevation places that are picking up on the snow. It's really also, it's lower elevation as well into the lower Hudson Valley. You can see, some of these places accumulating, and it'll probably be more of a wet snow. It'll be a wet snow regardless, but you'll still be able to pick up some accumulation. And so if we move this upper level low, we move this like 50, 60, 70 miles to the east-northeast now. It's been pretty consistent with wrapping it up here, but you're consistent until you're not consistent. That's kind of how models go. I've seen the solution I've wanted in this time frame many times before, and it didn't end up happening. I've seen the solution I wanted to happen 36 to 48 hours time before. Again, that's not necessarily what I forecast, but I see a positive snow solution before. And this is not, and it ends up sometimes just not being what happens, right? Models miss, and that's just how it goes. So I think there's something very intriguing still, just from the optics and the event. And there's complexity with this. There's so much complexity, I think, still involved with this system that I think it still needs to be watched, because I really do think you have a strong, upper level low that's going to stack from 5 to 850 and going to be pulling in tropical moisture into the system. So it could be prolonged, like just backfilling snow, right, coming across, into this area across, Hudson Valley, Northeast PA, Western Mass, and central New England as it moves out. So this is what keeps me intrigued with this system, and I think there's the potential, for some surprises. I think there's, with these kind of events, always thermals. They'll disappoint and they'll make some people happy, and it will be elevation dependent. Because if we take a sounding, it doesn't matter. Let's go like close to the rain snow line. So as you see, we just take a sounding. This place does have elevation here, but notice I want to take somewhere that doesn't have elevation. It's a rain, so you can see. Let's go here. Oh no, this is elevation too. Yeah, here. Notice this is a closer to some elevation, but not really too much, not enough. So we're 41 degrees at the surface here. We're 41 degrees, but notice if we go just to like 950, we're at freezing, and you don't need to be below freezing to snow. Remember, you can be 33, 34, 35. It might be a wetter snow, but if you're snowing heavy, you can still get half-inch per hour rates at when you're really thumping. So especially with the dynamics we're going to be working with here. So when we have this, notice as we stay, we're cool all the way until right to the surface. This is not we go warm at like 850, hop back, and then go back, right? So it's not a freezing rain concern. It's going to be strictly who sees rain, who sees snow. Some people are going to be damn close, and some people are going to have plenty good margins. Like here, you're all the way down to the surface, right? Notice how your rain 46 degrees here, it doesn't take too long before you get back to snow, and that's a little bit higher. And then if I slide it just a little bit, maybe 20 miles to the west, notice we're snow. 15-degree difference, higher elevation. Look where we're picking up at. We're picking up at 950 millibars. We're snowing. We're cold all the way through, right? We're cold back here. I mean, we're pretty cold in our upper levels. We have decent upper level cold air. Let's see if I will get it to show. No, I don't want that. No, 700. Can display what I'm showing. So, I mean, look here at 700. We're cold. We're not super cold, but we're pretty cold at 700 millibars, and I can go 850 too to show. Look at 850. All right. This is below freezing. Everywhere here is below freezing at 850. Right, so your margins are going to be super slim when we come to this. And right as the low end, and notice when the low stops intensifying, right? It's not like we rapidly increase, it's not like we go super cold on the backside of this. We get a little bit colder. But that's because we're pulling in, just this piece is coming through. We're pulling in more cold air on the backside, just kind of naturally. And that's part of the fourth round of intensification. But at that point, we're kind of distancing ourselves from precipitation. So it's not like we're getting that much colder, which is why It's not like it's going to be a favorable, snow event as it pivots and moves out for like eastern New England. That's why you're kind of seeing what you're seeing, and it turns to rain and like into New Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania as well, and mid Atlantic. That's why it doesn't look as good. Kind of starts to fade a little bit. So it's a super intriguing event, and I really do think there's a potential for some surprises here. Yes, I mean, just at first look, I think there's going to be double-digit snowfall somewhere. It's hard to pin down where. I think there's a good shot, though. I don't want to go all in yet, but I do think there's a shot. Double-digit snowfall somewhere. I mean, it's just a strong upper-level low. It's going to stack, and again, those questions are, how does these interact? And how does we're literally splitting a trough, so that's a complicated process. I don't think a lot of people realize that we're like splitting our whole trough from the bomb cyclone. So like I mean, we're literally so it's a complicated process, right? We're seeing a quickly intensifying ridge as well. Quickly intensifying ridge is what here out in the west. So this complicates things in terms of its added variables that need to happen. So there's a lot. We talk about simple, like there's a lot of complex storms that we forecast, and the reason why it's not being talked about as that complex is because I-95 Metro and other places, it's not like a wide forecast snowstorm right now. So we're not seeing like some big like confusion about this. This is a really complicated system forecast, guys. I haven't seen something like this. I can't remember. Like since I've been here on the last 5-6 years, I have not seen something like remotely like this. And it doesn't mean it's like something that's going to be like 4 feet, whatever. It doesn't mean that. It's a real. There's so many different variables, like 4 different rounds of intensification again with the low pressure system. I mean, literally take a look for those that weren't there. We laid it out. So here's round 1. Give me there we go. So here's round 1 of intensification, right? Yeah. Here's round 2, right here. I'm gonna go back. Here's round 3 of intensification. And then round 4 of intensification. Right, so our surface load is going to intensify 4 different times along this system. So that's the complexity that arises with this system. It's not just like a simple phase, and even if it was a simple phase, it would be complex because that's how Mother Nature and the models work. But there's a complicated forecasting element to this system, which really leaves me like there's going to be some surprises. And like I know models have kind of like honed in on like Catskills and Hudson Valley to be like the sweet spot as of right now, especially on like a lot of these GFS runs. But there's really there's no specific spot right now. It's really what it is. So it's complex, right? In terms of not knowing what's going to happen. But the simple reality is it is simple in a sense at the same time. So it's just going to be follow the upper level low. It's really, and that's going to tell the story, because really it's going to be dynamics they'll wrap around tightly to the upper level low. That's where the best temperature, that's where the coldest temperatures will be, and that's where the best thermal gradients will be set up, thanks to where H5 700 850 stack. So that is where we're going to see the best of the best take place with the system, wherever that upper level low goes. And you'll notice the difference between Euro and the GFS. Talk about a little bit. This is cold air you have here. that's going into our system. We're pulling in more cold air into our system on the GFS than we are on the Euro, and that's kind of the difference. So even though like we're much better stacked on the Euro, we're not supplying cold air as well on the Euro. So if we combine the Euro and the GFS, that's like the ultimate, whopper situation where we can maximize this, where we can get that surface flow to take off into like the mid-low 980s, and here's the trifecta. If you really want to maximize snow, in my opinion, like if you want to get more people involved, like I think like Eastern Central New York seems like a pretty good bet to get some regardless, in my opinion. But if you really want to maximize, you tap into more cold air, you wrap more in, right? And remember, you got cold, right? You got some cold air, not a lot, because we're not peak season, and we're also just the system doesn't show weird. Like we're not tapping into like true Arctic air with this system. We're kind of like separating our troughs, and we almost turn it into a cutoff low, basically. It's not, but it kind of is at the same time. And we have the remnants of Sarah, deep tropical moisture, going to ram up. And the best way to make interesting science happen, you ram warm air and you ram it into cold air. Now it's not super cold air, right? We're not dealing with a nice Arctic outbreak, but we have deep warm tropical moisture, and so that kind of will you're looking for the right whether it's all what very big about temperature gradients. So sometimes you can raise your margin for error for allowing for more snow to happen if you have a larger temperature gradient. So if you're really pulling in warm air, right, a lot of people here are going to be 40s and then like maybe 50s too. Like farther back, if we take a look at temperatures at the surface, right? I mean, we have like still real warm tropical Atlantic waters back here that we're tapping into technically, and we're going to be wrapping that in. And the Euro, kind of wraps so much of that in, and there's not enough cold air to offset it that you get rain, and you don't get a lot of snow. So that's the differences you see in a lot of these models right now. Just GFS and Euro are a good baseline. I'm still trying to understand how the AI models work too much. AI is surpassing my mind a little bit too. I will become more familiar with them as I see more of them. They did well with Sarah, and they seem to catch on before some of the others with it being more consolidated, like I was suggesting. But I want to see more. So yeah, that kind of that breaks down like the system pretty thoroughly. Again, you guys, if you have questions, just plop them in. I'll answer. I really hope the chat is working. I'm not um, bugging out here. So, but right, this is a pretty high impact system in my opinion. It's going to be windy too. I forgot to mention that. If we just take a look. Right, we're going to bomb out so many times. I guess you could say we're not full bombing out, but let's look at that's a massive wind field too of like 20, 30 knots right there, and then we're going to have gradient as our risen to the west. We have high pressure out here, and we can make it an H, and we have our low here. Right, we see the gradient that gets created in between, and these low pressure lines, kind of meet up, and then also as our storm intensifies, as well. Again, that I think really the fourth time when it really bombs out and it maybe gets 980, low 980s, 970s maybe. That's when we're going to see, it's real. That wind really start to shift into the northeastern parts of the country. So it will be windy back half of the week, the whole back half of the week, starting probably, already has been windy, past few days, especially. Was it Sunday or Friday? I forget when it was. Brush fire concerns and all that, but it's going to be windy, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that will be windy too. So there's a lot of different aspects of this storm that are super interesting, and I thought it was worth going live for. We're also, stay tuned. We're gonna dive into that pattern too, that winter pattern. I'm sure that's what many of you are just here for, but we are gonna dive into that winter pattern as well. So if you have questions about that, I'll do my best. I struggle a little bit more with the longer range. There's so many unknown variables and things change, so it's hard to really identify what's going to happen. But I love breaking it down, so we're gonna dive into it. If you guys have questions about more about the storm, drop them in the chat, put them in the comments in YouTube, reply on Twitter, or X, whatever the heck you want to call it. If you guys do want me to go over to Blue Sky eventually, I'll go over there too. But I'm not leaving here, by the way. But this will be the main action happens. That's the heater. Told you, different setup. Try to mic away from you a little bit. There. All right. Let's dive. I'll talk later. Don't worry. Let's dive into the longer range. Let's dive into the longer range pattern here. So here I'm really, like today and yesterday, I've really started to buy into what we're going to see in the longer range. I really am intrigued and excited about what's going to be happening. Without giving away everything, to me, I look at this and I go, I think to me, it's like a domino thing, and it's a chain reaction. And so what we turn it into is like maybe get a sip of water. Like maybe this turns into where maybe we miss one of these, but if we miss one being too progressive, we get the next behind it will be more amplified. And if we get that stretch, that's the thing. All right, I'm going all of it. Let's break it down. Let's make it nice, clean. Let's put it in a bow, because I'm getting very excited just even talking about it. Like I've become progressively more excited about this over the past 48 hours about the upcoming pattern. So what do we have in place? We have negative NAO in place, pretty strong one. That's going to fade a little bit, that block. It doesn't mean you still can't get a snowstorm, right? So it's like the negative NAO being in place is not the end all be all, right? It's just you don't want a full on positive NAO. That'd be bad. And so we have, for this system, we have negative NAO in place. That's why we're not seeing this thing really ride up. Well, it's actually going to do freaking exactly that. And so, we're not seeing a full-on cutter. Or even back here, right? Our storm back here, it's going to ride here, and it's going to do this. This is the storm track for the next system. That's how, so even though we're not centered, lower in the southeast part of our negative NAO, we're still it's a real strong block. I mean, this is a good block. And so we had that in place. Here, boom, boom, 50-50 low setup for this system. Right, here's our strong trough. Here's our 50-50 setup. And as this progresses out, moves out, kind of sets the stage. So this just got that storm's kind of fade out that block a little bit. But we still have, Greenland blocking in place. But what we're going to see is we're likely going to see models become more and more enthusiastic as we're going to see a stretch. And I guess we can ensemble this too, just to get, yeah, we're loaded out enough. We can ensemble this too, just to relay. I really don't like the model definition. I like this. It's fine. It's similar. It's similar. It doesn't really matter the specifics about where the trough is this far out. With this longer range pattern is what gets the floodgates kind of open just a little bit, right? And we see our 498. This is our polar vortex out here. And what happens is we have a stretch of the polar vortex, meaning Not a full warming of the polar vortex, but we still get, we're still able to access the polar vortex just enough so we can tap into Mother Nature's coldest air in the atmosphere. And that is very productive for winter weather lovers. As we know, if you've been following for past winters, it's very good. We want to access the polar vortex because that's Mother Nature's deepest, coldest, um, darkest secret. No, it's just Arctic air that we can access here, and it allows us, potentially tap in. Um, to get snowstorms. When we look at the basics of a snowstorm, right, we talk about temperature gradients. We want the coldest possible air, the coldest possible air to meet the warmest possible air. And we want that gradient to meet super tight so we can get heavy snow, right? That's when we look at, temperature gradients. And really at the basics, that's why we look at, the colder, the better, the warmer, the more we can pull in, the stronger the system, the more warm air we're going to pull in. And that's kind of just the fundamental basics of it. So they kind of go hand in hand. And sometimes you really just, maybe you don't have a strong system or a strong low pressure system, but you have a pretty good trough and you're going to be tapping into, you're going to be pulling, you're at least going to be pulling and you're negative. So that's like, there's different ways you can get to the same solution. So that's when we look at the basics, right? When I look at a longer range pattern, okay, I look at it at a fundamental basic. Like, I don't look at the specifics of like a rain snow line. I look at, does this look like a setup where we could get snow? Is there an extended period then where we could get multiple opportunities for snow? And then I start looking at that and I go, is there multiple opportunities for snow? And if I see that, then I'm like, okay, this seems like this is not, like, for this, it was a threat, but it's also setting up our pattern. And so I look at this and I go, okay, this is an intriguing pattern because now we're tapping into the polar vortex, right? I can't overemphasize it enough, right? We're having a stretch of the polar vortex, but also notice we have our block here. We have our block here. We have our Alaska blob. So we're not going to not going to see that happen. So we're not likely going to see a full-on Western U.S. Full throttle push of where our polar vortex stretch is going to go. Remember, this is still not set in stone yet, though, because as we see this push down, right, the Moses part in the Red Sea is kind of here. It's still until it happens, there's still different variables that are undecided. So does this push? It could still, even if we have our block here, we can see on the Jeffs, the Jeffs kind of pushes us. It's a little bit further west, right? We're still not. It's a little, just in general, it's a little bit weaker in terms of how far the block goes down. We would like to see a stronger block occur. Even or just push this further east. Really, is what we would see. Push this blob a little bit further east. And that's, again, this is a mean average when we look at ensembles, so it's not a perfect way to guide it looking at certain setup. But what we do still have, notice we still do have blocking up here. We have some, and if we can get good enough high latitude blocking combined with the right stretch, we can really start to tap into some interesting opportunities in terms of snow potential down the line. Because now what we have here, we have some high latitude blocking, and now we're also looking at, 18Z did provide a hit. 0Z did provide a hit in the long range too, but 18Z provided, so let's look at it, not the wish cast, but what went right in terms of the long range. We have a nice, it's a weaker block, right? But we still have a block. We still have a block present there. So that check, right? We have deep trough, we have strong ridging here, forcing polar vortex stretch to do this, right? To push our trough down and carry it out to the east, right? And that's just the general, like, you can look at the whole run and that's what it does, right? We see our stretch occur and we're just seeing then lobes of energy, and eventually it gets more, transient down the end. But again, that's like so far down, it's not like worth like going too far either or over, right? And it's 384 hours out on the operational GF. The next run, it's completely different. So that's why you got to take it with a grain of salt. But like the pattern itself is kind of setting itself up, at least in the short term. Like there's a shot for one of these late Novembers, right? Because what you're doing is with the stretch, now you're working it so that you have different opportunities, right? Because it rotates around an axis. Is how this works. It rotates around the axis. So there's going to be different wave propagations that move off the actual lobe of the polar vortex that's being stretched, and there's different opportunities then along. So it's kind of like a rotating, opportunity, right? So then this one I pointed out here is the next one that forms, and then the one behind that, then you get another one to form, right? So this one is now here. This one's up here now, right? So it's a moving, it's like clockwork of when you get a PV stretch, which is why I say there's gonna be one. There's like it makes me very intrigued, because when I look at that, I'm saying, okay, if one of these is more progressive, it's a flatter wave, or if one of these is way too amplified, and we don't get like enough high latitude blocking, then the next one to come in, maybe more progressive, and you can get something out of that, or it's still entirely possible where, you just miss all three of those for maybe your location, and maybe someone else, maybe it turns out to be, just a full-on interior snowstorm for one of these, or maybe you get a very light snow event in the Mid-Atlantic, right, and then you don't get the full-on big snowstorm, in that region. Or it could be vice versa for any different one of those locations, one of those different locations. So that's like, I can't emphasize enough, like, there's a lot of volatility when we look at, like, we go farther down the road. But I mean, you can clearly see, right, different wave propagation, like different waves, like we can highlight these along the polar vortex stretch in this general area, and it's still not a super like full out along polar vortex warming event, and we're probably not going to see too many of those. We're probably not see. We'll be lucky to see one. It'll probably be a winter more stretches, if I had to guess, literal polar vortex stretches, and figuratively as well. So there's still a lot of different factors that have you decided for the winter, which is why I always say, like, don't get too worked up about that, guys. Like, it's not worth it. And I know it's fun talk about when you start looking at all the general details, like how much snow you're going to see, but really at the end of the day, it's just about converting opportunities. Like a football team perspective, like you have 4 downs to convert the first down. And sometimes you have one stretch, and one of those you got to convert the first down. Sometimes you just punt, and certain games, certain seasons, you punt a lot more than you convert first downs, and that's kind of how it works sometimes. In the weather, sometimes there's a lot of good patterns that develop, and sometimes you just don't get the snow and then other times there's real crappy patterns, and you're still able to pull something out of it. So there's like, it kind of just goes to show there's been plenty of crappy patterns over these past few winters, where you've still been able to pull out a snowstorm, and then there's been plenty of good ones too where you don't convert. And that's just the reality. Sometimes how it works, and you got to roll with the punches, guys. I hate to break it to you. Life goes on. But in terms of this pattern, I like it. I think it's really intriguing. And if I were a betting man, I'd say, I would lean towards one hitting rather than none. You can take a look at the Euro too. Same thing on the Euro, right? It's not like GFS is the only one showing a stretch. Euro is like a little different how it plays out. but the Euro is showing stretch as well. Just a little bit different in the line pattern. It'll kind of work. Models will like work it out. It really wants to kind of build in the ridging there, and it kind of, we also notice too, we're a little bit different on the Euro is that, it's possible where, we don't have as much of an Alaska blob, but our blob offshore, right, or high pressure. We want this to be a little bit further east, and southeast, so we can force everything this way, right? And we kind of see like it almost pushes the stretch about here. This is actually just a unique run. I want to go back to, I want the ebbs actually, but I want configuration of everything. See if it's somewhere or not. It's actually not. It's quite different actually. Small southeast ridge, but we're like farther. We're stronger high pressure Alaska, and a much weaker ridge too, just on the ebbs. Know how to read, individual runs as well compared to ensembles. Right? Not just picking and choosing here. Like you got to know like what you're looking at. It'd be easy to say, oh, that Euro run was better or was not as good, and now you're just looking at the ebbs, to bias it. No, I know how to use. I'm just using models to describe different things of how it works. I like to cover my tracks and everything that goes on. Notice I really love this warming building over the polar vortex, and then our trough, our stream flow goes like this, a little bit of a southeast ridge. So at base, this would favor maybe a more interior threat for snow, but if we're just looking at base value, that's what we would get. And we're not there yet, so we don't have to worry about that too much. I think base value, this is a pretty that's going to be developing, and I'm really intrigued about what's going on here in terms of after this storm. Let's get back to Jeff's. $300 now. That's pretty sexy, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know about you guys, but that is what I would like to see. That's beautiful. I mean, you just printed out 50-50. You just printed out a literal 50-50 low, Alaska blob, Greenland high, very small southeast ridge for December 1st, first day of winter on the dot. I mean, you can screenshot that right there. That's a beautiful base setup for December 1st. Right? It doesn't mean December 1st snowstorm. I'm just pointing it out. That's December 1st right there. Exact start of winter. Exact start of winter. That's a beautiful. No, I don't want to try that. I'll pay for that. Just wonderful. How often do you get a printed 50-50 low? I'm gonna tweet this after. How often you get a printed 50-50 low set up? The blob and a limited southeast ridge. That's a hell of a Jeff's run right there. This gets useless in this range, but yeah, nothing to make of that. But I really think this upcoming pattern, I can't, stress it enough. Like, there's still volatility, but I simply just like it. I don't know what other better way to put it. I like the prospects. I like that it's not like clear cut, set in stone, but it's there's more positives. There's more positives that weigh out the negatives, like a good margin, like a 2 to 3 margin of like positive and negatives. If we're just looking at it like on average. So this is what gets me pretty excited about what's going to be happening. upcoming with this storm and with the pattern. So I hope the chat works. I can't even see myself be able to chat right now, so I really hope. Can I change who can reply? Oh, this is maybe why. No, it says I'm still live. Oh, whoa. That's pretty cool. Okay. Turn that volume off. Are you guys able to chat? Like, let me, like you can reply somewhere else if you're unable to. No, I don't want the captions. Oh, okay, there we go. So you don't like the chat anyway, so it's fine. Let's turn these off. You can still chat on YouTube too. If it's not working there, you can go over there and let me know. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good upcoming pattern. I would love to be like this is a slam dunk no matter what, but I think it's a pretty good pattern. With if you missed it, let's review it quickly again. I like the idea of as a base value for happening. Right, 50-50 low setup. I think the chat got disabled for you guys, so I'll look into that. But 50-50 low setup, strong negative NAO, right? That's for this setup, just in general. And as we progress, right, we have our Alaska blob. Love it, right? At face value, it's a decent setup. It's just not it's not a great set. You need a lot of going factors in early season snowstorms. And we have a good amount, but not enough to make this like a slam dunk big snowstorm. And so as we progress, we notice we get our stretch of the polar vortex here, and this is right. And depending on the strength of our block here, and also here, we would like a little bit of blocking here, ideally. That can allow us for this to shoot down, right? Moses parts the Red Sea, kind of, and then we just get waves off this, and then we pinwheel all these to move through and cycle, and that's how you get a snowstorm to happen. You get one of those to hit, and then you're golden, right? Really, you're just looking for one. If you get multiple of those to hit, it's an unbelievable pattern, and now you're working with a head start for the rest of the winter in terms of averages. If you get two of these to hit, if you get snowfall, if you're able to look out here, right? So like if people do the average stuff. Let's say you average let's say you average 50 inches of snow winter. Let's say you average 50 inches of snow winter, and you get like 1 to 3 in this oh Jesus, that's 324 freaking hours out. God forgive. You get 1 to 3 here, right? And then let's say we go down the road, right? Let's say you get one of these to hit, and you get 8 inches, and then you get another one to hit, and you get like 10 inches, right? Now it's like early December, and you already got 20 inches of snow. You still have the whole back half of December, January, February, March, and April too, to get that next like 30 inches of snow to get like average. And even then, like I don't think many are begging for like an average. Like many just want. I know for me personally, I just want a slightly below snowfall. Give me one big blockbuster and one or two regular blockbusters. I'm set. Whatever you got left for the rest of the winter, I'll be with. Like that. That's really how I kind of operate. So I'm like for me, that's kind of how I view it. When you look at it from a perspective, that's why it all comes down to, again, converting patterns. Converting when you get patterns, right? It might be small stretches, it might be larger stretches, right? We don't, it's hard to predict so far out how the winter's out, but when you do get them, you want to convert. You want to convert, right? We talked about it. It's like first, trying to get us down on 4 downs, right? You want to get one. You want to try to convert that first down on those 4 different opportunities you're going to get to do it. That's the goal. That's the goal of football. First downs can you get until you get a touchdown? Can you stop the defense? Can you stop them, right? That's how it works. So you want to be able to opportunities, and if you're unable to, more frequently throughout the winter, sometimes you get a punt. The more you punt, then sometimes it turns into a bad winter. That's just the reality. So I like, again, you gotta look at it face value. Like, there's a lot of different exciting things to look at in this upcoming pattern, but it doesn't guarantee you snow. This is definitely not a slam dunk pattern by any means. It could turn into it very well could turn into one. So that's why I'm excited. Like, there's a potential for this to be like a real it wouldn't be long lived. It would be pretty shorter stretch, but it'd be a short stretch of opportunities to convert on snow. Like this Jeffs was just printed out of beauty. Beautiful. What a Jeffs run. Unbelievable Jeffs run. I couldn't have made a better one myself. It's fantastic. Yeah. So I'm very you guys know me. I love winter. It's kind of what I specialize on here more often than not. Optics. I love severe weather as well. I love storm chasing, but I love winter. I love winter. Me into being a New England resident. That's what got me into weather. It wasn't tornado outbreaks almost. I mean, June 1st was hell of a outbreak, but I mean, man, this has been the bread and butter. So we're gonna try to step it up this winter. So like currently we're streaming in 720. I'm gonna get streaming subscriptions. I'm currently in 720, 30 frames per second. So we want to get into 1080, give you guys clear quality. 1080, 60 frames per second. Can I get a new microphone as well? I think this sounds okay. This I'm using now, but this is PC, so I'm gonna try to use this too much if I don't have to. Although I think it worked out okay for this time, but I gotta figure out the chat. That's for sure. Can't have 100 people in here and not one of them being able to chat. That's a sin right there. But so I'm pretty excited about what's I'm going to be able to do for you guys this winter. I really want to grow this. I'm going to be posting on YouTube stuff as well. So I really would like to grow YouTube as well if possible. You know me, though. I really just want to do the analysis for you guys because I'm doing it for myself. So I just share it with you guys. So I'm pretty excited about what's going to be going on for the rest of the winter. So hopefully, I'm really hoping that we can get a lot of just different things to track, even if they're not all end up looking positive in the end. I love tracking. I want to track as much as possible I can for you guys. Winter, I do have a busy life as well, but we want to track a lot of different storms for you guys this winter. The more the merrier, right? And it's not really, it's really not for me about like trying to get as much content and clicks and stuff like that. I could post a lot of stuff that would get that if I wanted to. I really want to not make my name, but I want to be, relied upon as someone, when you go to, it's like, you're getting, quality analysis, and you're not worrying about it like 90% of the time when you get the analysis, you're like, all right, this is good stuff, and that's the kind of stuff I want to do. So I'm really not that smart, guys. I don't have, I've taken meteorology classes in college before. I but I don't have a meteorology degree. I just study the crap out of this stuff. Really, I just look at models constantly all day and try to come up with the best plan I can in terms of understanding. I go into depth before the season. I'll watch a lot of different videos from a lot of different people. I'll go to past streams of different people on here, broken down storms before, just to go back and get familiar and refamiliarize myself before the winter, but also like just try to look at different things and what went wrong here, what went right, like just all these different intricacies of ways that I can just become a better forecaster for myself generally, because anything I do and put my time and energy to, I want to be the best at. I want to be the best at, and nothing less. So like when I do this stuff, like it's really just more centered all around that. So I'm very very intrigued again, and I want to be able to break down as much stuff as I can for you guys. So yeah. I'm gonna do some test live streams after this, just to figure out what went wrong with the chat. But other than that, I think that pretty much. I appreciate all you guys that came in, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Peace, everybody.